The opening pages of Kusanagi Mizuho's Yona of the Dawn start with a striking silhouette of Yona, followed by an image of our lead wearing a solemn expression, only fitting for a hardened heroic protagonist of a historical fantasy manga who has quite literally had to fight for her damn life. The preceding pages present us with a contrasting depiction of Yona as we're whisked back to the past, where the events of the story will begin to unfold. Here, we meet a Yona who appears much more youthful and less weathered, a childlike blush and naivety painting her cheeks and reflected in her eyes. The juxtaposition of these two images, these two portrayals of Yona, instinctively beg the question, what the f happened? What in the hell did this bundle of joy go through to cause such a shift in demeanor in what appears to be such a short time? Why, nothing but a canon event marred with betrayal that irreversibly splintered childhood friendships and crumbled a key pillar of her identity. Yona is the princess of Koka Kingdom. When we meet her in the first chapter, we find a 16-year-old who clearly grew up spoiled and overprotected. Both truths can be tied back to the loss of her mother at a young age and her father, King Il's resulting behavior, desiring to protect Yona and keep her safe from the more violent aspects of ruling a kingdom, as seen through King Il's open aversion to violence and weapons, and his swift discouragement when Yona expresses even a glimmer of interest in them. The loss of her mother also reflects in the lack of etiquette and education exhibited by Yona, pertaining to her role and responsibilities as princess. Yona's interests appear to lie mostly in the superficial and Suwon. Suwon is Yona's cousin, who she's shared a seemingly close relationship with from a very young age. We're given a window into the closeness and love between the two from when they were young children throughout the first volume. One pivotal moment highlighting the depth of their relationship comes at the heels of Yona losing her mother. Clocking her sadness and grief and suppression of her emotions at a young age, Suwon comforts Yona, urging her to express her emotions and grieve openly, while selflessly offering to step in as that mother figure for her. It's taken everything in me not to jump off a ledge. It's taken everything in me. This selfless and genuine expression of love and support played a pivotal role in Yona's life, only amplifying and solidifying her love for Suwon and his importance in her life. Throughout the first volume, you hear Yona reiterate this idea that Suwon is everything to her. Following the loss of her mother, Yona struggled with feelings of loneliness. Her father was obviously busy, being king, and while his love for his daughter is clear and he aims to be as present of a father as possible, he's a busy man. That void, that feeling of loneliness within Yona was filled by Hak, but more notably, was filled by Suwon. You see this through how reactive and proactive Yona tends to be when Suwon is involved. Majority of her emotions in the first volume are evoked by Suwon, save for her obvious outbursts due to Hak's teasing. Her self-perception is also influenced by Suwon. For example, her ability to develop an appreciation for her hair, which she once disparaged when Suwon gifts her the infamous hairpin while complimenting her hair. You also see a defiance from Yona, birthed from her love for Suwon when her father opposes a match between the two. While Yona's unwillingness to relinquish her seemingly foolish dreams of being with Suwon can be chalked up to the naive whims of a childish crush, I think it opens a door to certain strengths that she possesses. But I'ma table that thread and tug on it later. While Yona's feelings grew into the romantic, Suwon has never viewed her that way. Yona herself states in the first chapter that Suwon treats her like a child. While I think arguments can be made that Suwon is aromantic, and I'll helm that particular ship, looking specifically at his relationship with Yona and the dynamics that have been established in their friendship from young, I believe his inability to even perceive Yona as a potential wife, outside an obvious caveat, is because of the mother-child dynamic that was established between the two after the loss of Yona's mother. Due to this role of mother or caretaker to Yona, she's kinda sorta doomed to be a forever child in Suwon's eyes, unless something dramatic were to happen to shake that particular table. The perception of Yona as a child eclipses Suwon's ability to see her strengths, but Hak can. Hak My son, my son, my son. If y'all knew the way I'm fighting for my life to not unnecessarily throw him into this video, because I could do a whole series on him. A whole series. But I'm gonna keep it so cute and so mindful for now. Anyway, where were we? An unrequited relationship. Suwon, a romantic headcanon tease. Mother-child dynamics. Right. Suwon's inability to see Yona's strengths in comparison to Hak. Hak is able to see Yona not only as the immature, lonely, love-struck teen, but he can also identify the strengths she possesses outside of that. The determination she's had to remain true to and fight for her convictions from a young age, whether that be standing up for herself against unwanted advances or facing off against her father, the king of Koka, for the companionship and marriage she desires, regardless of how wayward said conviction might be. I'll forever argue down that Suwon's been unable to see Yona outside of that image of a lonely child, partially because of his dynamic with her that has her forever infantilized in his eyes. It isn't until a specific moment in the first volume that you really start to see his perception of Yona shift. But at that point, it's too late. He's chosen a path and there's no turning back. From the first chapter, you sense something brewing. Something eerie and sinister hanging over the castle, biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Late one night, after having a verbal tussle with her father about Suwon, Yona is sitting alone in the castle when she hears footsteps approaching. There's a feeling of foreboding and fear before Yona appears to glimpse a sinister eye shrouded in darkness and an equally menacing hand reaching out from the shadows to grab her. As she flees in terror, her mind flashes back to memories of her mother being killed in this very castle by traitors. Oh, my sweet summer child, you've got a big storm coming. Just when Yona gets grabbed and she thinks she's being snatched up by some regicidal goon and is on her way to glory, we see it's none other than Suwon himself who grabbed my daughter with a veneer of calm confusion that clashes dramatically with Yona's visceral terror. Yona girl, it's some people in your circle.
And I feel success coming up behind it, but I also feel lots of opposition. There's some people that's in your circle that's telling you that they're your friends and they're talking against your future.
It's some people in your circle. If Suwon being the one who popped up at this exact moment ain't indicative of the top billed role he's playing in this feature film, latent with scheming and politicking that's airing in the background, his response is, at Yona's urging that someone's following her, Suwon simply opens the door, takes a little peek outside before concluding, ain't nobody out there. I don't know about y'all, but if a close friend of mine ran to me with the sheer terror exhibited on Yona's face, especially one who I knew lost their mother in a similar setting and circumstance, and who wasn't predisposed to nonsensical bouts of paranoia, I would like to think I'd exhibit a tad more urgency in guaranteeing their safety and much less dismissive reassurance. Suwon's response to Yona's palpable fear, especially when contrasted with his response to her emotions when they were younger, night and day. Night and day. There's been a shift in their relationship. While part of that shift can be attributed to growing older and growing into their designated roles, I think this shift also serves to highlight what I alluded to when I noted Suwon's inability to fully see Yona. A separation exists between the two that Yona is wholly unaware of until the betrayal that occurs shortly following these events. A separation between them that differs from the gap Suwon has placed between them during the years as he's plotted against Yona's father. A separation that's really just a truth that they do not know each other as they are now. Eventually, in the first volume, they become aware of this separation. While this leads Suwon to a new understanding of who Yona is and the qualities she has arguably always possessed, it shatters Yona. Following the scene of Yona getting jump scared in the middle of the night, Yona confesses her feelings to Suwon, who firmly rejects her, slapping away her physical touch. Is that guilt creeping in? Is that guilt I'm sensing? Maybe so. Though he rejects Yona physically, he never verbalizes a full rejection, though trust and believe he'll be hammering the nail in that proverbial coffin soon enough. His lack of a blunt rejection, however, is enough for Yona to cling to hope and continue pursuing him as she steels her resolve to affirm her desire to marry Suwon to her father. With the stage set, we approach the climax of the volume, with Yona approaching her father's chambers. Entering the room, ready to present her case, she's shocked to witness a Suwon-looking shadow running a shadow eerily resemblant to her father, straight through with a sword. As the figures fall into the light, Yona sees her father falling to the floor, blood pooling around his body as Suwon stands over him in the room, with a blood-stained sword in his hands. My algebra might be a bit rusty, but I know 1 + 1 = 2. Yona, however, seems to be struggling with basic arithmetic, but who can fault her? Why wouldn't one's mind scramble towards a protective denial rather than face the life-shattering traumatic reality of the betrayal and subsequent loss that is unfolding right before your very eyes? But rest assured, Suwon forces Yona to come to grips with the reality of what's happening when he affirms, "I killed him." While Yona slowly actualizes the cruel truths of what's occurring, Suwon launches into a monologue explaining his actions. King Il was younger brother to Suwon's father, General Yuhan, and King Il was made heir to the throne of Koka by their father. The choice was met with confusion and disagreement by many, as King Il was considered not built for that life. He was seen as kind, but a coward, as he didn't take much to violence, whereas General Yuhan was firstborn and a seasoned commander of the Koka army. Suwon idolized his father, who, despite being robbed of his rightful place, held no aspirations for the throne whatsoever, and vowed to fight to defend his brother King Il and their people. Suwon's aspirations and desire to stand beside his father were shattered when King Il took the throne and immediately killed his older brother. Though General Yuhan's death was officially ruled an accident, Suwon swore on his mama to get his revenge on King Il ever since learning the truth of his father's death. While Suwon monologues, Yona is struggling to reconcile the image of a kind Suwon she grew up with this cold and deadly Suwon who has admitted to have been plotting against her father for all these years. Struggling with the realization that she does not know this man. Following his explanation, Suwon asks Yona what brought her to King Il's chambers so late at night. Emotionally despondent, Yona tells Suwon she came to tell her father that she would never be able to give up on Suwon and to fight for that relationship. Let's talk about the look that stains Suwon's face after her admission. I need you to walk with me. Suwon's expression is one of shock that reflects a realization that just as Yona does not know Suwon, arguably by his own hand, Suwon does not know Yona either. With her words, she lay a sizable crack into the image Suwon had of her as a naive, lonely little girl. He becomes aware of a strength within her he has never been able to see, of her firm determination and conviction. Looking beyond the first volume for a quick second and down the line where we're exposed more to Suwon's motivations, I think an argument can be made that for a brief second in this moment, Suwon glimpsed another path to achieve his goals. But as we know, it's far too late for that. Soon, Suwon's close inner circle and a small army of soldiers pull up, and it really settles in that, oh, so this is a whole scheme that Suwon and all his goons set up to come to Yona with the BS. Kiesuk, Suwon's sniveling, low-down, dirty, gutter snipe advisor, I can't stand this man, seeing Yona, immediately tells Suwon they need to get rid of her, in the moral sense, if you get what I'm throwing down. With no hesitation whatsoever, Suwon moves to Yona with his sword, ready to strike her down. It's always the lack of hesitation for me. This man is cold-blooded, but he's standing on business. The business is a bit messed up, but he's standing on it. I gotta respect it just a little bit. It was one thing for Suwon to turn a calculated and murderous ire on Yona's father, given his personal vendetta. However, having this disposition turned on Yona unravels her as she flees. While escaping, she internally repeats thoughts of disbelief that that man is Suwon. Yet every thought of denial that that is the man she loves only serves to solidify the fact that she does not know Suwon and hasn't truly known him for a long time now. Hawk swoops in with a gloriously badass entrance at the nick of time to save Yona, yet I can't even take a moment to revel in it because truthfully, it's too late. Yona has been emotionally and psychologically scarred by this betrayal, and you see this reflected in her face as she descends into a well of depression and grief. Not only has she lost a friend and father at the hands of said friend, but Yona's come to the realization in such a violently traumatic way that she did not know Suwon, a person she loved and believed to be close to her. A realization that shatters the foundation of not only who she believes Suwon to be, but the essence of who Yona is. I can't ignore the twin paths being inked out on the pages either, the delicious yet harrowing parallels drawn between Suwon and Yona. Suwon, a young child who built and shaped his identity and desires around his father, whose world was his father, only to have that core facet of his identity destroyed when King Il killed Suwon's father, rendering Suwon alone and changing him in irrevocable ways. We witnessed the same tragedy and trauma occurring to Yona at the hands of Suwon. With his betrayal, Yona has been changed irrevocably, just as Suwon was years prior. Suwon has been Yona's entire world up to this point, similar to how General Yuhan was for Suwon. Suwon played a key role in shaping Yona's identity and desires while filling those gaps of loneliness left by her mother. He has helped affirm parts of her identity and has been a source of strength for Yona. In a night, Suwon has called into question the genuity of their relationship, shaken Yona's identity at its core, and reopened those tombs of loneliness that dug themselves into Yona after her mother passed. How the hell do you bounce back from something like this? In the final chapter of the volume, you see the re-emergence of the hairpin Suwon gifted Yona, and even after Suwon's betrayal, with Yona thinking that she should abandon it, her actions and desperation when she loses the hairpin show a cognitive dissonance as it unveils a desire to hold on to the hairpin. And she holds onto it as a means to hold onto the Suwon from before the betrayal. Without it, she'll be forced to fully embrace the potential truth that their relationship, her desires, and parts of her identity was built on lies and deceit. And that reality would just be too devastating for her to fathom. So she grabs onto that thread of hope to ground herself and keep herself from shattering completely. She clings onto that hairpin for dear life.